You've tuned into another edition of The Break Room, a weekly conversation about how the City of St. Augustine works from those who do the work every day. Hosted by the City of St. Augustine's Communications Director, Melissa Wissel, The Break Room offers a closer look at the different city departments and provides updates on current and upcoming projects and events. And now, your host, Melissa Wissel.
Welcome to The Break Room. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Melissa Wissel, Communications Director for the City of St. Augustine. This week on The Break Room, we're going to continue our conversation about hurricane season. I've invited St. Johns County Emergency Management Deputy Director Kelly Wilson to join us. Kelly, it's great to have you back.
Oh, it's good to be back on The Break Room down here in the city.
Last time you were here, just real quick, we were talking COVID. An overall success for the county?
It was a resounding success for the county. The grand total of vaccines that were given at the Solomon Calhoun Center were 92,768 vaccines.
Wow.
So that's first and second shots, but that is an incredible number of people we vaccinated in St. Johns County. So we're very proud of the job we all did. We had the call center going in the St. Johns County EOC.
Right.
That call center started 7 days a week on December the 30th and concluded on Friday, May 21st.
Wow.
So it was very long. We gave our first shots at the Solomon Calhoun Center on January the 4th, and we gave our last shots on May the 20th. And
a marathon.
It was a marathon, and it was a success because it was a collection of everybody. It was the city. It was the county. There were individuals from administration to libraries to your public works, the city public works and city fire. It was all of us collectively that made that mission happen.
Well, a huge shout out to the EOC for heading all of that up, and then of course, like you just said, a huge shout out to all of those support folks that came out and made it all such a success.
Absolutely, it was an incredible undertaking, and we all came together and made it a absolute success.
Great. Well, let's not stray from our subject matter today, which is our next emergency. We hope not. But our next season is hurricane season.
Yeah. So we're here.
Right.
We're in hurricane season.
Here we are.
Here we are. What was interesting is we put out our final situation report regarding COVID-19 on June the 1st, and the EOC went back to its normal level 3 monitoring status on the first day of hurricane season. So there was some irony attached to that. We all hope we stay at level 3 monitoring. But what we all have to do is get prepared for it.
Right.
So no matter what happens.
So as we jump out of the frying pan into the fire, as it were, or into the storm, how are we doing so far? What are we seeing activity-wise?
So they've predicted a slightly above average hurricane season. But what I always remind folks is this: there could be 100 named storms out there. If none of them come to Northeast Florida, well, then it was a pretty quiet hurricane season for us.
Right.
If there's one named storm and that one named storm comes to Northeast Florida, it's been a really bad hurricane season.
Right.
So above average, they're not predicting anything like last year. Yeah. Last year, they had we had 30 named storms.
Wow.
More than they've ever had, ever. So they're not predicting that hyperactivity, but the potential for a more active hurricane season.
And like you just started to mention, preparedness. We need to be preparing now when it's a sunny, beautiful day and we're not expecting the storm, the usuals. I mean, we go batteries, water.
Absolutely.
But it's more than that, too.
It is. We talk about several things. The first thing you need to do is, do you live in an evacuation zone? Do you? Find out. You know how you can find. There you go. So Melissa does. I do as well.
Right.
So I know that. Melissa and I will both be working, supporting all of St. Johns County and the city of St. Augustine. But you need to find that out first. And then, so let's say you don't live in a hurricane. Actually, either way, you live or don't. Prepare your home. Do you have shutters? Don't wait until something's named and 4 days away to go to Home Depot to buy plywood and sandbags or whatever else it is you're doing.
Right.
Do it today. Measure out those windows. Buy those hurricane shutters that are going to be installed on your home. Create your kit. Are you staying home or are you going? Either way, you need food, you need water, you need medication. You need to think about your pets. If it's not safe for you to stay, it's not safe for your pets to stay. Have a plan for them. Do they take medication? Gather all of those things or write a list. These are all the things. Make sure you have those things. Make sure you are ready today. That way, if you're told to evacuate or you know something's coming, you are ready. You're not panicking and running to the store and standing in long lines or any of those types of things.
And we have a guide.
We do have a guide.
There's a guide. We work very hard to put that together every year.
Yes, and we those will be in locations, libraries, city hall, police, all of those places probably in the next week or so.
Okay.
It was a little slowdown with the printers, and so guides will all be in all those locations. In those guides, you'll see a hurricane evacuation map. If you cannot figure out, I'm right on the edge, I'm not sure, go to St. Johns County Emergency Management's website. At that website is sjcemergencymanagement.com, and you'll see My Evacuation Zone. Mm-hmm. You enter your St. Johns County address, be it business or home, and it will tell you if you're in an evacuation zone or not.
And with my checklist, you just rattled off a bunch of stuff. Just to touch base quick on the guide has the evacuation zone. Yep. Does it show us our flood maps?
The flood maps are not in there.
Okay.
So the flood maps and evacuation zones are based on storm surge flooding.
Okay.
So we evacuate you because of storm surge from the hurricane, not necessarily the wind of the hurricane.
Okay.
So that's an important thing for people to remember. Your home, a lot of folks will tell, I live in a concrete block house. Well, you may, but you also live over on the island, and your home may fill up with water. So it'll be a concrete block swimming pool.
Yep.
That's why we ask you to evacuate. The home may still be standing. It's just going to have water in it.
And when you ask for the evacuation zone, let's talk about that just for a quick minute. We've been through 3 storms, counting you've got Matthew, Irma, and Dorian. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people, I think some of us locals feel a little jaded or a little, I don't need to leave. But we really need to leave.
You really need to leave because this is if you don't listen to any other thing I say to you, if you were here in 1964 for Hurricane Dora, then you were here for the last hurricane. If you were not here in 1964 for Dora, you've never been through a hurricane in St. Johns County. The closest approach would have been Matthew. Matthew stayed a little over at its closest approach near the south end of the county, was 30 miles offshore. Okay, and it stayed a little further offshore here. So if you are, let's do quick math. That was 57 years ago? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you're 57 years old, we're not going to count that because you were just a baby.
Right.
But your mom may be able to tell you. So for all of the folks who, I've done this before, you've done it. And so you saw how bad Matthew and Irma were. That wasn't even a landfalling hurricane.
Right.
So people need to understand that message of how much worse it could be. We need you to leave if we ask you to leave.
And we can't always get in there to get you if you stay.
That is correct.
That's the biggest problem.
We, inside our brochure, you will see that we do have all of our shelters listed. Mm-hmm. Now, the smart move would be to make friends with one of those folks. You'll see on the guide, the middle part of the map is all white. Those folks don't have to evacuate. They live outside an evac zone. If you have a friend or family member or someone you know there, you can go stay with them, or you can come to one of our shelters. We will never ask you to leave your home without opening sheltering opportunities.
And the shelter's really a last resort in the sense of they're not cushy accommodations. It's an emergency. We're giving you a place to lay your head and be safe.
Yes. We used to make the comparison to a lifeboat, not the Love Boat, but no one knows what the Love Boat is anymore.
I do.
There you go. So anybody probably under 40 or so is not going to. So what we tell you is we will keep you safe. Right. We will also keep your pets safe. We have 2 pet-friendly shelters that both you and your pets can come to. We ask that you bring them in some sort of a carrier, and we'll take your birds, bunnies, cats, dogs, and you'll be there with your pets.
Okay.
We also have special needs shelters for those folks who are dependent electrically upon some sort of medical device.
Okay.
We ask that you pre-register for that, which is also in the preparedness guide.
Excellent. If you are just now tuning in, you are listening to The Break Room. I'm Melissa Whistle, Communications Director for the City of St. Augustine, and today I have Kelly Wilson, the St. Johns County Emergency Management Deputy Director. We're talking about hurricane season, and one of the things that Chief Avellese talked about, we have a lot of new residents who may not be familiar with hurricanes and living in St. Johns County or out on those barrier islands. Again, what's the biggest message? Insurance is important.
I think insurance is incredibly important. And I think there's a 2-part insurance message. The biggest part is you have homeowners insurance. And a piece of that is look at that policy. If you haven't looked at it lately, and I know that's not light reading, and no one wants to read a homeowner's insurance policy, but I can't tell you how grateful you will be once you know what that thing covers. Another important piece of that homeowner's policy is you need to realize that when you have hurricane damage, it is not the same deductible. The deductible is usually 3 or 5% rather than that $1,000 or $500 deductible you usually have. And that's very important, so don't be surprised if you make a claim and your deductible's thousands and thousands of dollars rather than $1,000.
And your inside household goods, that's separately as well? I remember that from...
So what that is, you're thinking of flood insurance.
Okay.
So your homeowner's insurance will cover it. I will tell you an interesting thing, and this goes for both types of insurance. If you have, let's say, some antique couch that's worth $25,000, you better certainly make sure that that is noted as a rider inside your insurance policy, because the insurance company is without that is not going to recognize your $25,000 couch. They're going to recognize it as a couch, and there's a standard. This is how much the couch cost.
$2,500.
Yeah, your
it's not going to cover
couch.
your $25,000.
Correct. But the other, if you pull out your driver's license, and if you live here, it says Florida, you need flood insurance. Okay, I cannot more strongly recommend you buy flood insurance because your homeowner's insurance policy does not cover flood damage. If you have a mortgage and you're required to carry flood insurance because you live in a flood zone, then you have it already. But if you don't have a mortgage or you live outside of what they consider a high-risk flood zone, you don't have to carry it. I cannot begin to tell you how important it is to have that. I live outside a flood zone. I carry flood insurance. Your flood insurance is not nearly as expensive if you do not. Mine's about $440 a month. It's about $400 a year. Okay, a little over $400 a year. An inch of water inside the average house is $25,000 in damage. So
1 inch.
An inch of water. So you can't imagine how destructive water is once it gets inside your home. And when you get the flood insurance, it goes back to what you were talking about contents.
Right.
You will be able to have building coverage and contents coverage. And I had an insurance agent, because people are like, what is contents? Are those cabinets? So the easiest way to know the difference of contents and building.
Okay.
If you take the roof off your house and you could pick it up and turn it over and dump it, the stuff that fell out are contents.
Okay.
So it's kind of like your furniture and things like that.
Right.
If it's nailed, affixed, or basically to a wall, cabinets, things like that, that's building. It's part of the building. So your contents are literally, it's your stuff.
Okay.
Your things.
And real quick before we have to wrap up, NFIP.
That's the National Flood Insurance Program. So generally, all flood insurance policies are underwritten by that National Flood Insurance Policy Program, which is the federal government doing flood. Basically, it's the flood program, just because of the risk associated with flood insurance.
And we're talking sort of the doom and gloom part of hurricane season, but I think it's important that folks remember. It has happened here. It can happen again, but not only in being prepared of riding out the storm, as we've talked about with supplies and knowing having your kit ready and getting your plywood and sandbags ready or waiting till the sandbags are available, but is also having the right documentation and your home taken care of so that if we were to get hit, you're not caught with no flood insurance, no homeowners or content insurance or the right kind. We want everybody to know to take care of that and start looking at that now.
Yes. The number of people I remember, the ones called just beside themselves because they didn't realize they had to have flood insurance in all the homes that flooded during Matthew. And they said, what am I going to do? And I said, buy flood insurance now. Do it now. You're going to have to, sometimes there's loans and things you can do to fix your homes, but I don't want to talk to anybody else who calls crying because they didn't know they had to have flood insurance. So please take that away from this conversation. Yeah. Buy flood insurance.
And with that, we are out of time.
Oh.
That goes by when you're having so much fun. Kelly, as always, it's a great privilege to have you come down and talk to us. I hope that all of our residents, St. Johns County and the city, are listening. Get yourselves ready now when it's a beautiful sunny day and when those notices start coming, you know that you're prepared and ready to go.
Yes. And sign up for Alert St. John's, which we didn't have time to talk about, but if you go to our website, that's how we will get your notifications via text, email, and phone calls.
Excellent. You heard it here. Thank you for coming by, Kelly.
Thanks for having me.
If you missed part of this broadcast and want to check back and listen to it from the beginning, check it out at citysainaug.com. As we wrap up another edition of The Break Room, I hope we answered your questions. If not, take a minute and send us an email to info@citysainaug.com. We want to keep you informed about what's happening in and around the city, and most importantly, that you hear it here from the people doing the work and making it happen every day. You can find us on social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at City St. Aug. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time.
You've been listening to The Break Room, a weekly program addressing projects and programs offered by the City of St. Augustine. Join us each week as the city's communications director, Melissa Whistle, has in-depth conversations with the people who make our town work to meet the needs of our community. The Break Room is produced by communications specialist for the City of St. Augustine, Cindy Walker, and engineered by Flagler College communication major, Lily McNeil. See you at this time next week for another edition of The Break Room.